The Division has eyes upon it. A lot of people are hoping it will improve on what Destiny messed up, and to be fair, in some areas it does, mostly in the story department, but its boring, tedious combat and lackluster mission design really weigh it down. Like most Ubisoft games, The Division has a really strong world. One thing that did surprise me was how the game uses its environment to tell a story. You might see a frozen body on a public chess table or a car crashed into a shop. It really reinforces the tragedy that has befallen New York, and goes a long way to immersing you in the world. The story itself starts off intriguing, but most of the story exposition is gabbed off while you're in the middle of missions, so it's hard to hear between all the bullets and shouting. Even though it has a nice varied world, The Division really lacks in its gameplay variety. Missions are all go here and kill all these people. After killing said people, you might unlock a door to save some people or defend a place, but it's really just that. The story missions fare a lot better. They take you through some interesting environments, but they are just linear successions of shootouts in very obvious arenas. The shooting is pretty solid. Weapons have a nice recoil to them, which you can negate a bit with mods like scopes and grips. Doesn't matter how solid it is though, because the Division's combat is generic, mundane and frustrating. This will sound familiar to anyone who's played a generic third-person shooter in the last few years. The enemies include snipers, the melee attackers, the heavily armoured bloke with the LMG, the guy with the shotgun who walks right up to you point blank and kills you in a few hits. All round, it's pretty lazy and pathetic how this game is balanced. AI enemies are pinpoint accurate with both guns and grenades. They do huge amounts of damage and take a stupid amount of bullets to bring down, obviously to make up for the shit AI. They also rarely react to having an entire magazine of M4 rounds dumped into their face, making your guns feel like water pistols rather than instruments of death. It got absolutely controller inserted into my rectum frustrating when the game felt like being a cunt and just made every enemy charge at me. And there's fuck all me and my squad could do because they're such bullet sponges. There's skills for tanking and healing, but since you go down in a few hits, they seem useless. Drop your healing AoE down while you're in cover, an enemy will throw a pinpoint accurate grenade to flush you out, or charge at you. Get your portable shield out to tank it or to make a retreat. Elite enemies will destroy it in a few shots. And how does the game approach making things more difficult for hard mode? Give them even more health and make them do even more damage. The "it's an RPG" excuse has nothing to do with how long it takes to kill an enemy and the absurd weapon damage balance the game has. I know people will say, "Oh my god, you're just giving it a bad review because you suck at the game." Listen mate, I'm fucking wicked at video games. I just don't have the time or patience anymore to deal with bullshit artificial difficulty and a complete lack of balance. Obviously you'll get plenty of loot along the way. Plenty of boring loot though. For example, you'll pick up an AK-47 at level 5, then at level 10 you'll pick up the same AK from an enemy that was killing you in 3 shots with better numbers attached to it. Slow this fucking roller coaster down. What makes it even better is the gun is nowhere near as effective as it was in your enemy's hands. But to be fair, you never get loot in RPGs because it looks good, you just want to be more powerful. It's not all bad though. The Dark Zone I did really like. It still has the god-awful combat between you and the AI, but the added PvP element adds a nice layer to it. Gear you and other players loot needs to be extracted by a chopper, and when other players call it in, everyone on the map is alerted, so you can either go in and help them, or be a cunt like me and mow them down for their stuff. You will then be marked as rogue, and other players will be rewarded for hunting you down. If you survive for a certain amount of time, your rogue status goes away, and you get Dark Zone currency as a reward to buy high-end weapons and gear. You can also go rogue on players you see whilst exploring the Dark Zone. Any player that has loot will have a yellow container on the back. It's a cool idea, I thought. Uneasy alliances are formed and you end up constantly checking behind you to make sure someone doesn't get the drop on you. I was surprised as well that I didn't get shot on sight by players. People were actually helping each other. The fucking idiots. More loot for me when I mow them down, the scrub. It's tense, exciting and quite varied due to the random nature of other players, and it's definitely where the game is at its best. Not that this would interest me, but it would have been nice to see a full-on dedicated PvP mode in the game to add a bit more variety and content. I'm sure plenty of people would have been down for that. I did rapidly go back and forth on my opinion during my playtime of The Division. The constant steady stream of loot, upgrading your base, the Dark Zone and the engaging world did prove addicting at points. This is all complemented by very pretty visuals even on the Xbox One. Nice weather effects and very nice details in the environments. like I said at the start, it helps the world tell a story, so I'm sure on a good PC it'll look tasty. But in the end, the shallow, boring, frustrating combat just put me off. Third-person shooter campaigns last about 6 to 8 hours for a reason, and The Division proves that by stretching out stale cover-based shooting with nothing else notable to back it up for too long.